You dumb, beautiful fucker.
Who wants to be in America's slash fic with Abraham Lincoln?
Louisiana Purchase, that's a name.
You need to really get off my balls, okay? I'm gonna kick your ass.
Also, why was Michelangelo so stinky? Ew.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Non-Canon Files number 36. I'll be your host today, Patrick. And joining me today is my chrysanthemum co-host.
My name Colt, and I'm here to watch anime in the fall season.
Yep. We got a gruesome twosome for you. It's me and Colt today, first sign combination, and we're going to break down 5 of the fall anime season's biggest series. Now, of course, this isn't by any means an exhaustive list. It's just 5 that we happen to choose for discussion because the fall lineup for this year is huge, and there's a lot to choose from. But we have, I think, a nice little sampling of the overall season, because if to try to do everything, it would just be really like a 4 or 5 hour show. It's just as many different stuff that's come out this season.
And also, we kind of have a confession. We kind of didn't we didn't plan ahead that well this time around. We usually plan like a month ahead of the anime releasing. I forgot.
Yeah, and plus, like, we've had a lot going on personally this month, so this is a bit of a last minute show, but at the same time, it gave us more time to look into what was out there, I would say.
That's true. Whenever I made the list, I purposefully avoided the ones that were actually doing very badly.
I say the cream has risen to the crop a little bit, so we'll go ahead and get started. First series we'll be talking about today, released on Monday, September 16th, is currently streaming on Funimation. It is called Heike Monogatari, or the Heike story. It's a story that takes place in ancient Japan, where a young child with psychic powers is adopted into a rich family, and with the political intrigue involved. What do you think of the Heike story, Colt?
I really enjoyed it right from the get-go. I think Science Saru, the studio that Masaki Yuasa is the head of, did an amazing job when it comes to style and the animation. Just immediately sucking me in.
Yeah, because one of the biggest eye catches for me is how it's not done in it's sort of like a traditional anime style. The art style is hews more closely to like the ukiyo-e and like historical Japanese art of the era, like of the feudal times of Japan, and not only does it sort of emulate that style artistically for the show, but also it really shows the disparity of that time, from just like the deeply crushing poverty to the lavish lives of the affluent, because the main character, they're sort of like these wandering pilgrims almost. They have no home, and it's a child and their father, and they see violence that's perpetrated by like the ruling class, the Heike clan, and the child sort of speaks out of turn about how brutal and like unfair the clan is, and the father sort of takes the punishment for that child speaking out, and they're killed by sort of the strong men of the Heike clan. Which, you know, it's really sort of sobering and shocking that something benign criticism is taken as a grievous crime.
Yeah, just straight up, the little girl was like, they can't treat this man like that. So she said a small thing like, that's not cool. It's not good. And then they were going to kill her. But the father stepped in and he's like, all right, you're going to have to pay for your daughter. Oh, you're blind? I don't care. You're going to have to pay.
Yeah, they just split them straight down the middle. And then after that, the story cuts ahead to like this big sort of celebration of like the Heike elite, like all these different members of their families celebrating their like wealth and political standing, because in this story, a disproportionate amount of the government and ruling parties are all members of the Heike clan. So basically, in a manner of speaking, this one family controls so much of the political sway in the country, and they're sort of just like living in the rich life. But there's one particular member, Shigemori, who seems to be a bit at odds with the rest of his family. How like they're very boastful and prideful of their affluence, and he seems to be a bit turned off by how well they seem to be reveling in their privilege.
Yeah.
He sort of like excuses himself from the party, and he sees the young girl sitting on like on their property, and he sort of like asks her what she's doing.
And she's playing a biwa biwa, the little instrument.
Yeah, the 4-stringed guitar-like instrument, the biwa lute. And because that's what her and her father did for money, they would like play music for change, essentially. But when she says your family will fall into ruin, that sort of gives away that she has this psychic ability, is that she can see into the future, even though it's by her father's like express wish that she never sort of visit the future and sort of like use her powers. But Shigemori, in a moment of grief, realizing that it was his family and his family's like employees that essentially killed her father, and out of like a moment of sympathy, because he himself has psychic powers, because they both have heterochromia, a blue eye in the right eye and a brown eye in the left, because he can see the spirits of the dead. And it's kind of implied that a lot of the dead are by the Heike clan's hands. So he sort of adopts her into the family, much to the consternation of the rest of the family. He's like, ooh, this little gross kid with like little fleas popping on her head. She can't live in this house.
Yeah, and they're like, ooh, you dress like a boy? I could not tell you what was traditional Japanese clothing for a boy or a girl at this time was, because I just didn't know.
Yeah, like obviously, if you're like not informed of what ancient Japanese culture looked like and the gender clothes, it'd be kind of hard to tell. You just, okay, sure, I guess that's how boys dressed then. But the father sort of like raised the child as a boy, I guess, as a way to like keep her more safe, because the child doesn't even have a name. Like her father never really addressed her as such. She took the name of biwa, which is the name of the instrument that she plays. So that's the name she's taken for herself. And she does seem reluctant to ingratiate herself into the family despite Shigemori's charity, because obviously you would be a little suspicious too if someone who's involved in this family who killed your father decides to like adopt you. You'd be like, I don't know about this. But it does seem that Shigemori is sincere in like wanting to extend this charity to her, and he sort of invites his family to do the same, just with a few holdouts. Like one of his sons is sort of just rude and
a little shit,
just mean to the girl.
Yeah.
But then like I believe it's their grandfather that like Shigemori's father, the bald-headed guy, he's sort of the leader of the family, and he sort of throws his political weight around when one of his grandsons is sort of harshly punished for not observing proper etiquette when a visiting dignitary passes by, because he was talking out of turn when a dignitary was passing, and like the dignitary's people just beat the fuck out of this kid for not observing proper manners. And then the grandfather is like, you know what? I can fuck up too. So he embarrassed this like dignitary right back. So like this whole thing. And going back a beat, the girl, when she meets Shigemori's sister, she briefly interacts with her, and she sees a vision of the future. She sees the woman in this brief moment. It kind of spoke to her. She also saw this woman's impending death, where she's seemingly caught in a whirlpool.
Yeah, it looks like she's gonna be. She'll die by drowning, is what I'm gonna guess. Take from that.
And we're sort of left to wonder how much the girl's powers will be able to affect the family, because Shigemori like wants to protect his family, and he doesn't want anything bad to happen to him. But also, there's this sort of the catch-22 is like, yeah, his family will live if they're able to avert the future in any way, but also at the same time they seemingly would be able to perpetuate this like very destructive force they have politically. So I'm interested in the political intrigue and the story with this, with everything involved in this family and this girl. And like with a lot of series this season, like the animation is just immaculate. This is definitely one of like the best looking series that's come out this season, like probably all year, honestly.
For sure, it's absolutely beautiful. It's not just the visuals. For me, the OST, the soundtrack was really good. I really like the opening, and I really love the outro.
Yeah.
And all the music in between is just fantastic.
Which is another thing we'll get to later, is that there's a lot of really good music this season, too.
Yes, there is.
Heike Monogatari, the Heike story. I'm definitely interested in watching this. I feel a little grumpy, though, because I feel like, oh, shit, I got to get a Funimation account to watch it, though. But with another one of the series that's on our list, I'd be willing to sub, because there's like this one and probably the last one we'll talk about are, I would say, top tier looking series of the season.
For sure. We'll definitely get to that, because I agree with you 100%.
Okay. All right. Moving right along to our second series. It debuted Wednesday, September 25th. It is currently streaming on Netflix. It's called Blue Period, which follows the story of a high school student who's fallen to a rut in his life, and a chance encounter with an art club at his school starts to open his minds to different ideas and new ways of doing things. What do you think of Blue Period?
I thought it was okay. I mean, it's just a first episode, but really, it didn't pull me in as much as I thought it would.
Yeah.
Personally, I mean, I'm not an artist full time, but I am an artist, but just in a different way. So I guess that could be a reason why it didn't suck me in. But you're an artist, so you might have something different experience, or you could have hated it. I don't know.
Blue Period, more like Poo Period.
Ugh.
No, I did like the series. I will say of the 5, it was the weakest on my list, but I still felt it was a solid show. I do think it's cool to see this exploration that person may get through the investigation of art. I think it's a great way for people to like get introduced to art, and especially like a more traditional form of it. Because I think it was cool how that the main character, he's very smart, he's very capable, but he seems to be taking the easiest route in a certain way. Like he's doing what's the most, how should I put this, the most practical thing. Like, oh, what's the thing that's gonna get me the most money? That'll get me the most comfortable way of life. So he's sort of like going through the motions in his life. So nothing he's doing is out of like passion or interest. It's just like, what's the most convenient thing to do, and I'll do it. And that's something he sort of struggles with, because like when he's hanging out with his friends, which I thought were grown ass adults until they showed up at his school, honestly.
Yeah, I thought it was like a college age, or at least college age to 30s anime, because they were getting drunk, having fun at a bar.
Yeah, they're like smoking cigarettes, like drinking beer, and they're just like, it's like, hey, sorry, bros, I gotta get to class. And it's like, okay. And he puts on like a high school uniform. It's like, what the hell? It's like, why do these kids look so old? And are there like the liquor and smoking licenses like much looser in Japan?
I think the drinking age is definitely lower. I don't know what it is exactly. I want to say 19.
Yeah.
Maybe 16, but that's probably somewhere in Europe. I don't know exactly. Either way, there's some young kids getting crunk.
It's like, because there'll be bits where like later on in the episode where they talk about staying up all night at the bar watching soccer games, and then they're literally having at one point they show like carried their drunk friend out of the bar, and he's like puking, and it's like they stayed up till literally the next morning, and they're like trudging back home. But I did think it was cool, like seeing his like growth as this character, so to accept that it's okay to do things for passion. And so it seems that he's never really given himself a chance to find out what he likes. So it's like, oh, I'll just do what's the most studious thing, go to school, get good grades, and just kind of go along in this fashion, and then I just sort of make my way through life like that. Which is like, it's a way to succeed, but it's like you're not enjoying anything they do. Because like when he tries to paint for the first time, he's sort of like, oh wait, I kind of like this. This is nice. And when he tries to talk about his friends and about sort of like a more elevated way of thinking, something that's out of just sort of regular rote conversation, they sort of give him a strange look. It's like, oh, suddenly you're being like fancy and poetic. And so because he comes to contact with this art club, we see a little bit of them in this episode. There's like this tall girl who's like more, I guess, more forward in her actions. Like, oh, you're just a kid who's not really applying himself. Why should I pay attention to you?
The tsundere character for the series.
The tsundere, which is, I would say on a scale of tsundere, she's pretty like a soft tsundere. Because this is a fairly grounded show.
Yeah, she's not as bad as someone like Asuka. That's the only one that really comes to my mind. I hate this character. Not this character, but this character type.
Yeah.
I don't like it at all. It's always been one that annoys me. Why are you being mean to me?
Just be nice, be honest. So when he meets one of the girls in the art club, she's painting this like gigantic picture. Like, it's just canvas she carries on her back, and it's like she's like 5 foot tall, and this canvas is like 10 feet tall or something. It's absurd. But she's like doing this like oil painting essentially, and she explained to him like what underpainting is and sort of the process of like how she's painted. And he's like intrigued, and he had like this his art teacher who's a little coy and sort of helps him, sort of leads them along into figuring out what he wants to do. Like, it's okay to do something for passion, even though it's not the best way, for example, to like get financial gain. But it's more fulfilling as like a life direction to do something you enjoy, even if you don't get all the money and accolades for it.
I will say the art in the show, for like not just the animation's fine, but the art on the walls that were drawn for the showing that they had in this episode was really good. Even the main guy's art was pretty good.
For the character who's never really done anything with art, he has like I've seen like a pretty natural aptitude for drawing. And one thing I did appreciate is that when you see his initial drawings, they look like someone who doesn't really have like much training or education in art. It looks like someone who doesn't have a lot of skill in it yet, but like has like a direction. And then when his teacher sort of redraws what he does as to show him a better way of doing it, you can see the difference. And like it seems like there's like actual art people made for the show that's not in this art style of the show.
Yeah, they were giving actual legitimate tips that like your art teacher would give. Because I remember the perspective thing back in middle school, where the teacher would be like, don't draw everything the same size. The example in the show was, don't draw everyone the same size. People that are further away, draw them smaller, because they are.
Basically giving this little crash course in what foreshortening is. And so like I think like with a lot of anime that have a specificity, you're just going to be like a lot of really interesting detail, because that's something I always love. And anime in general, it's like, oh, I'm learning some stuff. There's like there's actual interesting trivia that comes up with like this, with a very focused series that you wouldn't think you would get somewhere else. So I do think it's worth to watch. I don't know if it'd just be something that I would watch just like week to week, but it's definitely something that I would probably check in on and see what it is, because it's definitely not a bad show in any regard. But of the 5, it's the one I feel the least about, but it's still a very strong show.
Yeah, it's the weakest for me of our crop this season. I'm not going to keep up with it, but I would say if you like art and you're an artist, give it a go. You might like it. As somebody that took so many art classes through every year of high school and almost every year of middle school, It was just assaulting my brain.
It was a throwback to high school art classes.
Which I had, that was my escape part of high school and middle school, where I felt safe and happy. But it also brings up bad memories. So thank you, anime.
I'm reliving my trauma. But moving on to the next one, we have, I'm going to try to say Takt Op Destiny. It released Wednesday, October 6th. It is currently streaming on Crunchyroll. In this post-apocalyptic world where music is a foreign concept, the world is besieged by these strange monsters, can only be combated with the power of music and the powers of special individuals. What do we think of this series?
I really, really liked it. Mappa, what's the other studio that made it?
But is it Bones?
Oh my god. I don't know. Let me, you know what? Beep. I'm going to look it up.
With this series, like, it takes a very interesting concept, like music in this world doesn't exist because apparently in this world there was a meteorite that hit the earth, and the fragments of that meteorite gave certain individuals powers that were derived from music, and they used that to combat the monsters that were sort of attacking in response to the man-made noise that humans have created. So basically, like a magical anime version of god damn it, what was that fucking movie? God damn it, what's it called? One with John Krasinski and you can't talk in it.
Oh, Quiet Place.
That's it. It's like, imagine a magical anime Quiet Place, but with like people flying around and some really badass action.
With some of the best animation you can see from a fighting anime, really. The other studio is Madhouse. It's Mappa and Madhouse. If you want to know who Madhouse is, people behind One Punch Man, Season 1, and Parasite, The Maxim.
Yep.
Those big, amazing anime.
It is funny to me how there was the order I watched these is very different from how we're going through them. So I'm like, I watched one, okay, this is going to be the strong one this season. Then I watched another one, it's like, okay, this is going to be a strong one. And like Takt Op is like, it was going to be my favorite for a while. And I watched some others, but for a action based series, this is going to be definitely one to watch, because you have a trio of characters. You have this young boy who's sort of the magician, knows how to play piano. Has like this deep desire to play music, even though music is kind of outlawed due to a pact that a person known as like the Grand Maestro. Apparently, they're the strongest person of these powerful people who sort of help calm down the initial conflict between these creatures and the power users. And so he doesn't have an opportunity to play music until he finds this one piano sort of like cordoned off in this like sort of makeshift town, and he starts to play it, and everybody sort of stops and listens because there's no music playing anywhere. Like there's an entire generation of children who've never heard of music because it's sort of been outlawed because it attracts these monsters. And sure enough, when he starts playing, a monster shows up and starts to like wreck up the place. But then his counterpart, this girl who acts very robotic, she shows up, and she's the one that actually does battle with the creatures, because the boy, his right arm disappears in a flurry of like rose petals, and it becomes a baton that appears in the hand of the girl, and she like gets on like this battle dress outfit, and she throws it back to him. So he's like conducting her like an orchestra, and she uses like this weapon that's part sword, part gun, and she's flying, zipping around, fighting this monster, and it's like pretty sick as they're like blowing through this town during their battle.
It's absolutely insane. It kind of reminds, the way that they work together, it reminds me of Soul Eater.
Yeah.
In a way. And also, I just realized that in this universe, band kids are the most oppressed and the most powerful.
Yeah, be careful who you make fun of in Bandcamp, because they're going to save the world from music demons.
Yeah. You just wait. The person playing that little drum, just hitting it over and over again. They're practicing, I know, but they'll kill a demon in front of you.
Yeah, they're practicing for when they will become the powerful group in the world. And so the trio is rounded out by this the older sister, quote, of the girl with the powers, and she's sort of the level head of the one. She's the one that keeps them both under reign. So it's just like, quit fucking around. We got to get to New York because the whole series takes place in America. They're in, I guess, the West Coast somewhere. They got to do a cross country tour to get to New York,
which whenever I was watching it, I was like, I realized that every single thing that that any Japanese media that takes place in America, they always have a classic diner playing this country music that's not really country music, but it's supposed to be country music.
It's like the facsimile of American country music through the lens of a Japanese person.
I like it. I really enjoy it. I really liked it in Final Fantasy 15, and that's the only thing that's coming to my mind right now. But it's in a bunch of other stuff too.
And like I really liked the Japanese interpretation of America, like the whole like classic 50s diners and the West, because I think that's really interesting. When you have like the huge wide open spaces of America, that a country that may not have that same level of like personal freedom and like maybe like geographical freedom. I'm sure that's something like that's endearing about America, and sort of to see like this anime road trip through anime America, it's kind of fun. And
yeah, I assume that like where this diner's at, it's in the middle of a desert. It looks, I want to say Arizona-ish.
Yeah, because
and they got to get to New York.
Yeah.
People don't realize how big America is. That is not like a one-day drive. That is a few-day drive.
Well, and it'd be like a fucking brutal drive too, to drive literally from one end of the country to the other. And like that's in like the best of circumstances, because like one, this is an apocalyptic afterworld, and two, there's all these fucking music demons around. Because literally the older sister, she pulls out a map that shows like a nest of where all these demons are, and it's like, okay, if we just take this one path, we can probably get through it with minimal incident. And then the homeboy's like starts playing this jukebox that sort of like wakes up a demon, and she's like, oh fuck, can we not do this right now? And then he's him and the girl, they go to fight the monster, and they just get whooped right away. Just like,
yeah, like she flies off because she is the weapon fighter, and as soon as he walks outside, he just falls face down on the ground, knocked out cold.
Yeah. In order to combat that, the girl like runs like superhuman speed, runs back to that town there and picks up that piano on her back and runs back to the diner. And they form a plan because the demon is like nesting in like this abandoned factory. And so he plays the piano. I guess like their powers are stronger when they actually are playing an instrument or playing music, not just like have a recording of music. So he sets up this trap in the factory, plays the piano, and they turn into battle mode. And the monster looks like this. All the monsters are different, but this one instance, it looks like kind of like an insect, and its abdomen is this great purple like gem, like diamond. And it has like all these like little tiny bugs that it sends out, and like the ensuing fight is crazy. Like I was like, holy shit, this looks amazing.
Yeah, and the first demon monster was like a monkey baboon,
like a gorilla like type, like a primate type design.
Yeah, it's really cool. I really like the way they look. They're aliens, and they got these blue neon lights on them.
Yeah, and so like in a way, it's like because they have like this spherical gem, it kind of reminds me of the angels from Evangelion, because you have to smash that to kill it. So when the girl like activates her super weapon, she turns her sword into a gun and shoots this big ass laser through the gem of the insect. Huge, like it looks so sick when she's like boring the laser through the dense gem, and then there's a huge ass explosion. And like the boys kind of flip it about everything, but then like in this moment, he kind of like gets more serious and like finds a resolve to do this. Because what's strange about this is even though the girl like eats and sleeps, they keep saying that we have to take her to New York for repairs. So it's like, what is like the mystery? Like, is she human? Is she a cyborg? Because she talks about the older sister talks about there is another sister they have that's in New York. I think she's not with them presently.
Yeah, I'm assuming the repairs is because she's an instrument.
Yeah.
But technically, since she's like walking, talking, and stuff, is a cyborg.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go with instrument, and I think it's pretty neat though how like he has to use up his energy to somehow play this instrument. I don't fully understand it. They'll probably explain it later on in a future episode, but from that first episode, he just gets tuckered out real easily.
Yeah, because the girl, she requires like food to maintain herself, but then like he needs energy to like, I guess, kickstart the process and like maintain it, because without him she doesn't have powers, because he has to like activate it, and then it's like this, it's like a feedback loop. They sort of like power each other in a way, but he sort of starts the circuit. In any case, I'm really looking forward to watching this, because like this is like, if you're looking for an action series to watch, this is definitely like up on the list for one to check. And plus it's on Crunchyroll, and about everybody has that too.
Yeah, it's on my watch list for sure. It's something I want to keep up with.
Yeah. And moving on to the next one, which is also on Crunchyroll, we have Sakugan, which started Thursday, October 7th. And this story is about a young girl prodigy who lives with her father in an underground society, and how she wants to break out of just like a simple mining job and go explore the underground. Unfortunately, the underground is teeming with deadly life, and the site itself, it seems to be more fragile on the surface, and she has to try to convince her father to explore the world beyond. What do you think of Sakugan?
I thought it was a really vibrant, fun little anime up to one point.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I did enjoy my time with it, but man, there was one point that really caught me off guard.
Yeah. What was that part?
It was when this one girl that was really good friends with the little girl and her dad get inside this little mech suit, and this demon. This is we'll probably get to this later, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. This demon just straight up obliterates both of them easily, just right off the bat. I thought it would be some cool fight sequence, but no, they get absolutely murked right from the get-go right there.
And what's we'll get back to that, but I did like the world, like it's like this really cool industrious underground city, and like the little girl and her father have like this like animosity between them, like that they're always, because the show opens with the little girl being chased by like this man with a gun, but then you kind of see as the chase unfolds that this is part of like their game, their ritual. Like she wants to get away and like do her own thing. He's like, no, you're gonna stay here. So they like plan traps for each other. Like literally, she gets pulled up in a net, then he gets pulled up by his leg. It's like this Looney Tunes kind of thing, like this Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote sort of business.
Because she's like a 7-year-old girl, but she's super smart, and she's progressing through. I think she's already graduated high school or something like that. She really wanted to become the special mech driver person.
Yeah, because like there's these mechs that are used to like do the labor and like digging and mining, and then you have this separate breed of mechs that's used for exploration and like just like exploring the underground and like kind of filling in the corners of the map, which is where, as we mentioned, the RIP, the other father-daughter duo in the series that we're introduced to, and the father, that's the secondary father figure, is sort of like trying to convince the first father to kind of like let her do her own thing. You kind of have to, even though this is a scary world, you kind of like have to give your kid room to grow. But
at the same time, I'm kind of on the first father's side. Like, she is 7 years old.
I mean, she may be like a super genius, but yeah, so she's still like a little kid, like less than 10 years old. And, there's
he's like,
monsters and shit.
there's a point in the episode where he goes up to her when she's sleeping in bed. He's like, please just stay a little kid for a little bit longer. And he falls asleep right next to her.
Yeah.
And it's fucking sad.
And because that is something that happens to like real life prodigies. There's very young children, because of like their skills or intellect, they're sort of thrust into a more adult world. And you're like, oh, you're so good, you kind of have to participate on this high level, and make things for an adult world. So I feel like this sort of gift that they have of just like abundance intelligence is sort of comes at a sacrifice of their childhood. So I can see like why he wants her to, and then nothing else, just be like, enjoy being a kid. Like, you only get to be a kid once. Don't leave adult stuff to adult stuff. You'll get there soon enough. But I did like the relationship that the girl had with the older girl. She literally calls her One-san. She treats her like a big sister. And then, fortunately, they get lasered to death and explode at the end of the episode. But I guess, like, that was sort of the inciting incident for the father to be like, fuck this. The world's fucked up. You only got one chance, so let's get out there and do what we like.
Yeah, like, any innocence you had left over is gone. You just watched your older sister get destroyed right in front of you.
Yeah. And the little girl, she kind of, like, spurred into, like, kind of reaching out beyond like the bounds of the city, because there's a legend of this woman who supposedly had charted the entire outer world of this underground society by herself, and there's like a record of it that appears in this gem that's like etched inside this gem that shows up at her house. And it's sort of mysterious, because the little girl had a dream about a tower on the surface surrounded by flowers under a night sky. She had this dream about it, and she drew it down. And then later on in the episode, a photograph of that same picture shows up at their door with that like map gem. So like, is she seeing the future? Like, what is this about? This like extra level of intrigue. This was the first one I watched. I was like, okay, this is a pretty good looking series. It's got some action. That see where it's gonna go. And then like I kept watching more. It's like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't the best one this season, but it's still a pretty solid show.
Yeah, it's very pretty. It reminds me of Kill la Kill in a lot of ways. The font, the style of the characters, just everything.
Yeah.
Well, not story mode wise or how erratic and crazy it is, but visually.
Yeah, there's a lot of like
Reminds me of Kill la Kill.
real depth and detail in this city, because you just this stratified underground town. So there are definitely moments where the camera lingers. You see like a lot of the little details kind of like pressed away in the corners of this city.
Oh, and the obvious comparison, Gurren Lagann.
Yeah.
Gurren Lagann takes place underground mining facility.
Yeah.
Little boy finds a drill, drills out, and wants to escape and explore the world. Actually, this is just Gurren Lagann.
It's Gurren Lagann, but they go down instead of up. Because I feel like they'll
Yeah.
get to the surface eventually, but like the main exploration seems to be like the greater under Earth world. I think it's a recommendation for me. Like it was a lot of fun. It kind of ends on a really bleak note. It's like, oh, two cool characters, they're dead, but there's adventures to be had.
Yeah, I'm interested in it. I definitely want to check it out and see if it picks up a little bit more in the future, because I enjoyed the first episode.
Yeah, it's a father-daughter adventure, and I think there's some real legs here for the rest of the show. And coming to our final anime series of the episode, we're talking about Ousama Ranking, a.k.a. Ranking of Kings. It's just started Friday, October 15th. It is currently streaming on Funimation. And this is in a medieval fantasy world where a tiny prince who cannot speak or hear lives a very adventurous life despite the negligence and disinterest of his royal surroundings. And his life changes when he meets a strange, shadowy creature while out for a walk. What do we think of Ranking of Kings?
I absolutely loved it. This was the first one I started with and was like, oh my god, this is absolutely fantastic. Everything about it is amazing. This little character is cute as hell. The soundtrack's amazing. The character design for everyone is really good. It uses these older these anime styles and brings them back, kind of like how Naoki Urasawa does with his characters. It's so good.
Yeah, because this is definitely in a non-traditional anime style. It feels almost Western in a sense, and like how the characters are designed, and like everything is just so lush and beautiful. Like you see the painterly marks in like the background and the grass and like the setting. Like it's so gorgeous. This was my favorite of the crop that we watched.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm in the same boat as you.
And this is my favorite. I loved all the characters. Like even the ones you see just for a moment have enough visual character to make you want to find out more. And it's just like it feels like a living storybook because like that it's just felt so like charming and like childlike, whimsical. And I'm interested to see like the dynamic between like this little shadow character called Kage. He kind of looks like a puddle, kind of with like two eyes and a little like a appendage that looks like a beetle's horn. It kind of like acts as his mouth.
And all he wants is some clothes. He just wants to steal your clothes.
Because because the little boy is walking out in the woods and he sees Kage, and Kage like pulls out a knife and is like, "Give me your clothes. You're a prince. You give me money." And so the little boy just sort of hands over his stuff freely. And he keeps going back day after day to give him stuff. So like not realizing that he's been rooked in a certain sense. But he does seem to have a certain level of attachment to Kage. Because even though the boy can't hear or speak, he does know some sign language. And like through body gestures and body language, Kage kind of susses out what his deal is. And like basically Kage, even though he was stealing from him, was the only one that kind of gave him the time of day, because the rest of the royal consort sort of looks at him as like a failure and an afterthought, because he was the firstborn son of the king, who's like this giant, I mean literally giant strapping warrior. Because when Boji the prince like stands up next to your father, he's literally like a bug next to his finger. Like he's like the scale is kind of fucking with my head a little bit, because I can't tell how big he is and how big the dad is. Because he's the same way with the mom too. The mom that the Boji's mother had passed away at some point before the show started.
Yeah, she's the evil witch mother. That's what she is. Because
the king remarried to like this like snooty girl who like literally has a long like snoot nose, and they have a child who is sort of everything that Boji isn't. Like he's smart, he's capable, like literally he's a child, but he's already like able to like be like an accomplished adult warrior. Like essentially he has the makings of a great king. And the title Ranking of Kings comes from the standing of any given kingdom is sort of put on the back of how strong the kings are. And Boji's father, Bosan, was like this giant, venerated warrior. Like, literally, he was kind of like, he saved this town from like an invading like ogre army, and through that his wherewithal in battle, he's able to like to raise this town up into a kingdom. And now he's like on his sick bed, and they're kind of putting their hopes on the princes to take over for their father, because he could kind of kick the bucket any day now. I will say Bosan does seem to be distant to his first son, but he does seem to genuinely care for him.
Yeah, because like he knows his son has disability, but he still loves him, and he wants him to have a chance at being king. It's not like he wants him to die, get out of the way so your brother can be king.
Which is how his stepmother thinks, like the wicked stepmother. He
actually really cares for him, and we get to see that he is his father's son in a certain way, because every scene beforehand makes you think he's not. It doesn't seem like he's related to his father.
Like he's just sort of like really absent-minded. He sort of seems to be like left of center. Like he's not in the real world, because he walks through the town like a little nod to the Emperor's new clothes, where he's in his underwear, and everybody's like, "What is this weird kid's problem?" But then because the little boy is being tutored by the kingdom's greatest knight, who's also teaching the boy sign language, which I thought was cool. So the knight is sort of like a little exasperated with like how Boji has like no capability as a warrior. Like he can't really figure out how to fight. So when the stepbrother, or half brother I should say, shows up, somehow 8 years old but has the ability of a grown man, the knight is just sort of super excited. It's like, oh, he could be what I'm looking for. I want to teach this kid how to fight, because like he actually kind of has to try halfway and like then dodge or whatever when the half brother fights, and he just bonks him on the head. And the half brother is kind of like a pill too, like he's kind of an asshole. But the half brothers like face off in combat. Boji on one side and his brother on the other. And while his brother has like genuine combat skill and ability, he can't land a hit on Boji, because even though Boji can't fight at all, he has this heightened ability to like read body movements, and he dodges every single one of his abilities.
And one of the guards that was watching them fight, he's like, I don't know how this fight will go. Little Boji's going to get his ass kicked unless what I witnessed a few weeks ago wasn't a fluke. Because a few weeks ago, before the fight happened, he witnessed little Boji surrounded by snakes. And he thought he was for sure done for. But as soon as the snakes attacked, he was able to dodge every single snake flawlessly. So watching him do it twice, he realized, oh my god, he is the king's son. He has a special ability here in the way that he can dodge and, like, I guess perception? I don't know what this is.
Yeah, because I guess in a way, because the boy, he can't hear or speak, he has to like perceive the world around him a different way. He has to pay more attention to body language. So, I mean, I'm coming from just from the angle of like, I'm hard of hearing, so I sort of naturally went towards noticing how people move and speak, like just from their body language. So like I'm more observant in a way of other people and how they act. So I think, at least in that thinking, that's where his like supernatural ability to be like Neo in the Matrix and just dodge everything is sort of coming from. Obviously, being anime, it's heightened to the nth degree. But like it was gorgeous to watch. Like when he was like dodging the snakes, when he was like fighting his half brother, like everything in this show is just so crisply and deftly animated. It's just like, even though everything's in a very simple storybook style, it's all done to maximum effect. And a little bit more on Kage. He sort of infiltrates the castle because he has sort of this like begrudging interest in Boji. So he's like snooping around trying to find where Boji is. And there's like,
and he kind of feels bad because he has been stealing his clothes.
Yeah, so like, oh, he's like, he was being nice to me. He was giving to me not because I threatened him, because like he wanted to give me something. So it's kind of like, oh shucks. And then we find out that Kage is part of like this clan, these like creatures that once served the royalty, but then turned their backs on it. They were sort of rubbed out, and he's seemingly the last one. And this is given to like one of the four like knights, one of the four big powers of the kingdom outside the king himself, is just like snake charmer man with like a crooked blade. And so he controls like this army of snakes. And there's kind of like this implication, did he sick those snakes on Boji weeks ago, because the snake guy, he's kind of in cahoots with the evil stepmother, who's kind of like, This dumb first son, he can't do anything. Why can't my son take the reign, even though he's better? So there's like some subterfuge going on, but this is far and away my favorite. And talking about music, the music in this show was fantastic. I loved the outro for this show too. Yeah,
I want all the music from Heike Monogatari and this on Spotify, so I can just put it in my playlist. I need it.
Because like I'm gonna admit, because like the outro is like really sweet, and like honestly I teared up listening to the outro because it was like super cute, because it has even more like childlike storybook style. Kage is like wandering around in the woods at night, and then Boji shows up, and they're kind of like running around, like kind of like chasing each other, and they sort of like lay back in the grass, arms across like each other's shoulder, towards like stargazing. It's like it's a really sweet, tender moment, and it's like, oh god, this is gonna be just like a really, just like feel good, wholesome show to watch.
I'm for sure gonna watch the rest of this. I've only seen the first episode, but I gotta watch the rest.
So, of the 5 that we watched, what would be your top 3? What would be the ones you're definitely you want to keep up with the most?
Number 1, obviously, Ousama ranking. Number 2, I'm gonna go with it's pretty hard actually. I'm gonna go Takt Op Destiny, and then number 3, Heike Monogatari, because those 3 ruled.
I had the same 3, just in different order. My number 1 is Ranking of Kings, then Heike Monogatari, and then Takt Op Destiny. Those are our top 3. Those are like definitely go out of your way to seek those out if you aren't already watching, because these have been out for a minute. But definitely, if you're like us and has some stuff to do and you need a little idea what to check out, these are our top 3 that you definitely should seek out. And not to say Blue Period and Sakugan are bad in any means. It's just of this batch, they were sort of our lesser favorite, but they're still solid series. You can't, if you choose to watch them, you're not going to be disappointed, I don't think. And just so you know, this is just a very small sampling. The fall anime lineup is huge.
Yeah, I had to make it to where it was a small amount because it was such a last second thing. And I had to remove so many, and I had to swap some out because they weren't out actually just yet.
Yeah.
Whenever I made the list, I was like, ooh, I don't know if we'll have that. But now it's later in the season, so everything should be out. And there's a lot that's out.
Yeah, like there are a couple I watched. The new Digimon, I liked it. Komi Can't Communicate, that's also on Netflix. I think that'll be an interesting one. Because that's a really well done animation, and I really like how they incorporate sound effects into the show. I know the premise might be a little grating because it's this girl who's too shy to talk to the world, so like the whole show is like kind of getting her worked up to speak in front of public. But of course, like her anxiety is like ratcheted up to the anime limits. But I think it's a solid show. Like, there's a ton of stuff out there, so just let this be sort of like a starting point for your anime watching this season, because there is so much going on, and I think you're going to be well served this season, because it's just like an embarrassment of riches almost.
Yeah, and that's not with this season. Fall, winter comes next, and winter's already looking pretty good. And even future seasons, I don't know when they're going to hit, but we got Mob Psycho season 3 coming back.
Yep.
We're definitely going to cover it whenever its first episode drops. And then Chainsaw Man, I don't know when that's going to drop.
It's sometime
I just need
sometime
it.
in 2022, maybe.
I if I had to guess, maybe fall next year, because there's a character that's Halloween themed.
Yeah. So.
Maybe late summer. I don't know.
Yeah, because summer. Cause I guess Halloween could be in summer in Japan, because there's a lot of because that's kind of like the spiritual part of their year. A lot of spooky stuff comes out around then. But in any case, we have a lot going on right now in anime, and even more on the horizon that's just as exciting. So we hope you enjoy this season and look forward to the seasons ahead, because we'll definitely be covering that as well. So thank you all so much for listening today. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to like, rate, review, subscribe wherever podcasts are found, including SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Spotify, Anchor. We're all on there. Be sure to like, rate, review, subscribe on all those platforms. Keeps us visible, puts us in front of you listeners. We always appreciate you when you do it. If you're listening to this to the week it comes out, on Monday, October 25th, we release episode 235, All You Can Hear, or Cult, and our other friends on the AYCH, we did the slasher tournament where we were each randomly assigned a Hollywood slasher creature and character, and we debated to see who was the best in a 5-way tournament. And on Tuesday, October 26th, Tanner and his guests released a new episode of The Late Takes, where they did a special retrospective on the very unique, very creepy former WWE wrestler, The Fiend. And on Thursday the 28th, the Cage crew over on Cagey Greatness has a double feature where we reviewed Ghost Rider 1 and Ghost Rider 2 Spirits of Vengeance, and that's a very interesting duology there.
I gotta say, the group at Cajun Greatness, they're brave. Because all I see is them constantly watching terrible movies.
We definitely run the gambit of quality. Really high peaks and some really high lows, but I feel like that's all makes for interesting content, I believe.
Yeah, it's either 4 stars and up or 2 stars and lower.
Yeah, you kind of get the best of both worlds there, heaven and hell. And lastly, you can follow me, Patrick, on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. John Lost His Name, and my art on Facebook at John Lost His Name Art.
My name's Colt. Find me on Twitter, ColtD00. Probably find me on Letterboxd with that as well. If not, ColtD99. I don't know. I've got so many numbers everywhere. I don't know what they mean. Yeah, thank you.
Have a good night, and we'll be talking to you very soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.